Antec's Constellation Series cases have already started making a scene with the introduction of the Antec C8 and its new entry into dual chamber cases. And now it's up to the Antec C5 to show its mettle. This dual chamber panoramic case takes its cues from modern PC case trends by putting components on full display, but with the bonus of some extra visual interest via RGB and support for back connect motherboards. Will the Antec C5 upset the landscape of mid-sized PC cases? Well, we're gonna find out right here, right now on Robeytech. Well, we're back with another PC case from Antec, the Constellation 5, or C5, as we're going to refer to it throughout this entire video. At first glance, the C5 looks like the Lee 011 Dynamic Mini and the MSI MAG Pano M100 had a magical baby, but that magical baby had kind of a chiseled chin. Okay, maybe the front part that sticks out a bit isn't that extreme, but the resemblance to the front of the MAG Pano is stunning. But honestly, when we look at the Antec C5, we see an interesting blend of some of our favorite features of both the MAG Pano and the 011. The C5 is stylish. It has a modest footprint, and it's really straightforward to build in. But that's not all. The C5 also comes with a number of extras that make this a really attractive option. Let's start talking about the case in a little bit more detail to give you a better picture of what we're looking at, starting with where to find it. At the time of making this video, the Antec C5 is available only at Amazon in black or white for $129.99. We tried to find it elsewhere, but we really couldn't track it down. Even Antec points people to Amazon if they're trying to get a hold of this case. Aesthetically, the C5 is a pretty case, and it gives a stunning panoramic view of the parts inside, thanks to its tempered glass panels and classy RGB accents, which are removable, by the way. The glass, not the RGB. Why? Why would you want to remove RGB? Now, the side panel has two thumb screws holding it in place, while the front tempered glass panel has a few tabs holding it snugly into place. If you need to remove the front panel, all you need to do is squeeze the tabs from the inside of the case and you're golden. As for its footprint, the Antec C5 measures in at 18.46 inches or 469 millimeters long, 11.2 inches or 285 millimeters wide, and 15.7 inches or 400 millimeters tall. So it's roughly 3 bananas long, about 2 bananas wide, and a little over 2.5 bananas tall, based on the standard of 7.5-inch Imperial bananas. As far as weight goes, the C5 weighs 16.75 pounds, or 7.6 kilograms. For comparison, that is 10 pounds, or about 4.5 kilograms lighter than the Antec C8. If you want another comparison, the Antec C5 weighs about as much as a Dutch oven, which is great for making soup in. The Dutch oven, not the C5. Wait. Not that Dutch oven, the one that smells good, not bad. Get your head out of the gutter. As for case I/O and controls, the Antec C5 keeps things simple. It has 2 USB 3.0 ports, 1 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C ports, as well as a power and LED control button. There are also audio jacks for mic line and HD audio out. Moving inside the case, the Antec C5 has support for micro ATX, mini ITX, and ATX motherboards. Sorry, no eATX motherboard support here. You have to check out the Antec C8 if you want to go bigger-ish. It doesn't quite support all the big eATX, but it's something. Now, we did actually review that case, which you should check out right here after watching this full review. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss reviews on PC cases, laptops, AIOs, GPUs, and giveaways, and so much more right here at Robeytech. Now, before we move on from motherboards, there are 2 things worth pointing out. First, the motherboard standoffs were set up for an ITX-sized motherboard. With the size of the case, this was pretty weird to us, but it's nothing a few minutes of moving some standoffs around couldn't fix. The second is that the Antec C5 has joined the Alliance of PC cases supporting back connect motherboards. So, all your current back connect models like the Asus BTF and MSI Project Zero lines of motherboards are supported by the Antec C5, as long as they're micro ATX. We love seeing more and more cases building out a future where this form factor can actually thrive. And as you can see from the build that we put inside of it, you can do some very clean and beautiful builds with those back connect no cable motherboards. By the way, if you want to see the build and how we did it, you can actually check out the live stream of that right here. Continuing on fitment, the Antec C5 can accommodate GPUs up to 410 millimeters in length. This covers several larger GPUs, but because of the case's size, you're going to want to make sure that you help your system thrive by leaving some breathing room inside for air to cycle through. Now, mind you, we did slap an Aero RTX 49 inside during our live stream build, and you know what? It did all right. It just blocked some airflow, though, let's be honest, temperatures didn't suffer all that bad because of it. As for the fans that are going to be supplying the air, the Antec C5 supports 3 120mm or 240mm fans at the top and the side, 320mm fans at the case bottom, and 1 120mm fan at the rear. Now, if you're the type who's intimidated by needing that many fans, the Antec C5 comes with 7 fans, including 6 PWM ARGB reverse fans pre-installed on the case side and bottom. Now, the 7th fan is also pre-installed in the case rear. Oh, and I do need to mention that the Antec C5 comes with an ARGB and PWM fan controller pre-installed. One word of warning though, they are a bit louder, the fans, than things like premium fans like IQ Link, Lian Li, etc., so just be aware. As for AIO support and radiator support, the C5 can support 360mm radiators at the case top and bottom. As for the side, while it comes with 320mm fans pre-installed, the C5 only has enough room for a 280mm AIO or radiator at the side. Unfortunately, none of these locations have removable brackets, so if you're going to be changing out fans or installing an AIO or radiators, this is going to happen inside of the case itself or flipping it upside down to do the installation at the bottom. Think of it as a workout. You're getting your lift in. Now, moving on to space for storage, the C5 has a few options for SATA-based storage drives. There is a removable bracket in the back of the case that can fit 2 2.5-inch drives as well as a 3.5-inch drive. If that wasn't enough space, there's also a spot in the front of the case that can accommodate either a 3.5-inch or 2.5-inch drive. Unfortunately, using this location in the front of the case will require you to sacrifice a fan. Not one of you fans, I mean a case fan. Don't worry, you're safe. As for PSU support, the Antec C5 can house power supplies up to and around 240mm, including the cables. I was actually really surprised how much room you have in the back for cables, even using a back connect motherboard. Not saying it's infinite compared to something like the MSI Pano, which you can see our full review of actually right here. This is like having a 4-car garage. Now, for front panel connections, Antec yet again opted for individual cables instead of a unified cable header. While this setup is less than ideal, using a back connect motherboard made it slightly less painful. But seriously, Antec and every other case manufacturer, let's just see some unified front panel headers moving forward from now on. So many people are embracing it as it is. Oh, and while we're at it, I love that you guys made all white connectors, but can we please not have ketchup and mustard and multicolored cables for the HD audio cables? Sure, it's less of an issue on back connect, but it's been done and it looks so clean when it's all white. Now, one huge thing that Antec did do for builders that is super awesome, especially for back connect motherboards, is they gave ribbon cables for the internal USB and the USB 3 cables. So thank you very much for that, Antec. Now it's the moment of truth. Sure, it looks good, but can it perform well in our thermal benchmarks? While idling, the Antec C5 averaged 24 degrees Celsius on the CPU and 28 degrees Celsius on the GPU. These averages send the C5 to the top of our charts as the coolest case that we have tested, following both the mesh and tempered glass versions of the Fractal Design North XL and the Antec C8. It looks like cool runs in the family, but can it keep things up under pressure? Under full CPU load, the C5 held an average CPU temperature of 72 degrees Celsius. These temps put the Antec C5 in between the Antec C8 and NZXT's H6 Flow, both at different ends of the 72 degrees Celsius. As for 1440p gaming benchmarks, the Antec C5 stayed at number 4 in our charts with an average CPU temperature of 46 degrees Celsius and an average GPU temperature of 57 degrees Celsius. These temperatures have the C5 rubbing shoulders with cases like the tempered glass Fractal Design North XL, the Asus ProArt PA602, the Phanteks NV7, and even the NZXT H6 Flow. With numbers like those, the Antec C5 puts on a great show. But before we can play it off with victory fanfare, we do have to talk about a few considerations that you may want to know if you're considering the old Antec C5 for your next PC case. Thing number 1, in the words of BMOC, one of our tech specialists, esteemed member of our Robeytech Discord team and community, get ready to do some cable management. Even though the C5 comes with pre-installed fans, you're going to need to do a lot of extra cable management. Out of the box, I mean, Brian saw this, the cabling was not pretty. We had bundles of cables all over the place. It was like a murder scene for cables, including the front side of the case. It was not a good look at all. Thing number 2, the Antec C5 will not tolerate lazy cable management, but it does set builders up for success. Because the C5 can accommodate different size motherboards, it has a generous number of tie-down locations. It's like they thought of everyone from ITX users to ATX ones, and then they put tie downs for all of them. However, the cable channels do not have rubber grommets blocking them, so this is where you, the builder, are gonna need to make your cables scarce or have them bundled nicely, like I did. Choosing a power supply with cables that are easy to bundle can make your life a whole lot easier, like the Asus Tough Gold 850 watt I used in my build. Thing number 3, we need to talk about the fans, specifically the mounting for the side and bottom intake fans. Like we mentioned, the cable runs weren't pretty, but as we were fixing the wiring, something kind of stood out for us. The mounting hole for these fans are so far away from where the cables need to run. Guys, I've driven small cars that I could probably park in the amount of space between the fans and the cableways. Something else that stood out here is that the placement of the side intake mounting holes should have actually been flipped around. That way the fans, whether 120s or 140s, would be the same distance from the edge of the fans to the cableways. Not only that, but there's also an extra rail sized for what looks like 110mm fans. Does anyone even make those? I know it sounds like we're being picky here, but if you want to build a PC that you're proud of, you do not want your cables sticking out. Don't get me wrong, you can make a build look good in the case. I mean, here's proof right here. But we just want to make sure that you're educated going into your build. Even with all of these considerations, there is a lot to love about the Antec C5. It's easy to build inside of, especially if you're using a back connect motherboard. It manages heat exceptionally well, and the final product, honestly, even with the cable issues, looks really good. While the open cableways push builders to take care in their cable management, Antec did a good job providing a North Star with a generous number of options for tying cables down. In other words, if you're patient, the Antec C5 is a seriously good-looking case. As we wrap this up, we want to give a huge shout out to Antec for obviously letting us check out their case, but now is the time to ask, what do you think about it? Are you excited to see smaller dual chamber options like this on the market? What stood out to you the most about this case? And then are you into back connect, or do you want to just do things standard? So let us know all that in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so that you get a notification each and every time we post a video like this right here on Robeytech. If you want to talk more about this, if you have questions, or you want to talk about your own build, head on over to discord.gg/Robeytech, where you can either meet other like-minded tech and PC enthusiasts who'd love to chat about it and help you make decisions. And you know what? You might just make a friend. Also, lastly, make sure you follow me on all the other social media platforms. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.